When they arrived in Irewole, they were greeted by a village that had changed in many ways, but still retained the soul of the place Olufemi had once called home. There were now modern houses scattered among the traditional huts, and the village had grown in size. However, the heart of Irewole, with its people and traditions, remained the same. They made their way to the home of the village head, a man who had grown frail with age. At first, he did not recognize the British woman standing before him. But when Margaret reminded him of her time in the village and her connection to Olufemi, his eyes lit up with recognition. When he was introduced to Olufemi, he was filled with awe and disbelief. The boy he once knew had grown into a successful and handsome man, just as they had all hoped he would. The village head then broke the news that Ifedayo was still alive, but living in her small hut on the outskirts of the village. After she was hit by a motorbike and broke her leg, the villagers had built her a modest dwelling where she could be cared for by the village elders. She was weak and frail, but she was still holding on to life. One of the village head's son led them to Ifedayo's hut. As they approached, Olufemi's heart pounded in his chest. He wasn't sure what he would find or how he would feel, but he knew this was something he had to do. When they arrived, they found Ifedayo lying on a mat inside the hut. Her body thin and weak from years of suffering. Her hair was a wild tangle of grey, and her once beautiful face was lined with the marks of time and madness. But when Olufemi stepped inside, she opened her eyes and something flickered in them. Recognition, perhaps, or simply the connection that had never been severed between mother and child. Tears filled Olufemi's eyes as he knelt beside his mother. "Mama, it's me, Olufemi," he whispered, his voice choked with emotion. Ifedayo's eyes welled up with tears, and though her mind was still lost in the haze of madness, she seemed to know who he was. She reached out with a trembling hand, and Olufemi took it, holding it tightly as tears streamed down his face. Margaret and Amara stood at the entrance of the hut, watching the emotional reunion. Margaret's heart swelled with pride for the man Olufemi had become, and Amara was filled with love and admiration for the strength and compassion he showed in this moment. For the first time in years, Ifedayo had a nice bath, dressed in clean clothes, and fed properly. Olufemi did all of this himself, tending to his mother with the same care she had once shown him. Even in her madness, he introduced Amara to her, holding his fiance's hand as he proudly said, "This is my mother." Ifedayo's response was incoherent, but she smiled, a small, fleeting smile that gave Olufemi hope that somewhere deep inside, she knew her son was with her. After spending time in Irewole, Olufemi decided that he could not leave his mother behind again. He shared his plan with Margaret and Amara. He wanted to build a care home in the village, a place where not only his mother but others like her could be cared for with dignity and love. It would be a way to honor his mother's memory and give back to the village that had been his first home. Margaret, ever supportive, offered her help in securing funds and resources to make this dream a reality. She knew this was something Olufemi needed to do, not just for his mother, but for himself. Within 8 months, the care home was completed, a modern, well-equipped facility that could accommodate dozens of patients. It was named Ifedayo's Haven, a tribute to the woman who had sacrificed so much for her children. The care home quickly became a beacon of hope in the village, providing care and comfort to those who needed it most. Olufemi moved his mother to the care home where she received the best possible treatment. Although she never regained her sanity, she was surrounded by love and care in her final years. She lived out her days in peace, attended to by caregivers who treated her with the respect she deserved. Meanwhile, Olufemi and Amara's relationship continued to flourish. They married in a beautiful ceremony held in the village, with Ifedayo in attendance. She was dressed in fine clothes, her hair neatly combed, and though she did not fully understand what was happening, she smiled throughout the day, a sight that brought tears to Olufemi's eyes. The care home became well known throughout the region, attracting visitors and volunteers from far and wide. It was a testament to the love Olufemi had for his mother and the legacy he wanted to leave behind. The village of Irewole, once a quiet rural community, became a symbol of resilience and hope. Olufemi and Amara decided to settle permanently in Nigeria. They built a beautiful modern home near the care home, where they lived together, happy and content. Margaret returned to England but visited often, delighted to see the life Olufemi had built for himself and the impact he was having on the community. Though Ifedayo's mind never returned to her, she lived her final years surrounded by the love of her son and daughter-in-law. Amara grew especially close to her mother-in-law, visiting her daily and reading to her, holding her hand as they sat together in silence. When Ifedayo passed away peacefully in her sleep a few years later, the entire village mourned her loss. Her funeral was a grand affair, attended by people from far and wide who had come to know her story. Olufemi was deeply saddened by her passing, but he found solace in knowing that she had spent her last years in comfort and peace, surrounded by those who loved her. Olufemi continued to run the care home, expanding its reach and services. He and Amara also started a family of their own, raising their children with the same love and compassion that had been shown to them. They taught their children about the importance of giving back, of never forgetting where they came from, and of the enduring power of love. And so, in the village of Irewole, the story of Adetola and Ifedayo lived on, not just as a tale of tragic love, but as a testament to the strength of the human spirit, the power of resilience, and the enduring bonds of family. Olufemi's life, once marked by loss and tragedy, had become a beacon of hope and love, a life full of purpose, and a legacy that would be remembered for generations to come.